Hello and welcome to another episode of the Power On Podcast, 00Status. I am one of your hosts. What got a 553? Taylor, Agent 553. Writing Virtue, I guess, is some handle somewhere. I don't know why. I actually know exactly why I made that, but edginess aside, hi. How's it all going? And with me is the crisp, golden, crinkle fry Sushi B. How you doing?
Deep fried?
I don't know. I was just hungry for some fries. It's just coming to mind.
Captain California roll?
Something
like that.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's it going?
Not too bad. And yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. I was going to go with the indubitable, but
evidently you have food on the mind. You're hungry.
Well, no, I've used that too many times, and it is always right there at the tip of my tongue. I'm like, no. Sometimes you just have to wait to use those, and yep. I keep on waiting. What? Yeah. So, picked a movie. Picked From Russia with Love for this episode, and yeah, we're going to talk about the second entry into the Bond series with good old Mr. Connery there. And, yeah, I'm very, very curious to see how much we love this movie or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how else to really broach this other than the behind the scenes is super sad, and I know I talked to you about it.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit.
It's pretty dark. I actually cried like hearing that. I was like, good God, this is sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess since I picked it, I'll start it off.
Go for it.
And I have vague recollections of this as wee little lad,
mm-hmm.
but it certainly wasn't all of the film. It was towards the back half where a certain creepy henchman dude named Grant is staring out the train. I remember that as a kid because that dude scared the living daylights out of me. Like, holy crap. Like, he just crazy.
Yeah, that's funny because that's one of my key scenes in this film is that scene when he's when Bond is out having a smoke, and where are they? They're in Belgrade, I guess.
Yeah,
I believe.
I think so.
And he is just stalking him from each window.
And it's cool.
It's shot really well. It's really cool. And even when Bond stops and he kind of almost has that feeling of he knows someone is watching him,
mm-hmm.
and you can still see Grant, but it's just that odd reflection that's coming through. It's not him actually in the window.
Right.
But he's paused because he knows, okay, Bond might turn around, might see me, might recognize me or whatever. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie, and it's maybe, about 30 to 45 seconds? It's not very long.
It's not very long at all.
But it's just done very well. It's executed perfectly.
It is. It's wild. It's wild also because, Shaw is like an author. But this dude is author and actor and stuff like that. But he's like, yeah, we're going to put you in as a spy killing henchman. Come on. And it works.
Yeah.
It works really well.
He's also really good in... Have you ever seen the movie The Sting?
I have not.
With Robert Redford and Paul Newman. And he plays the main villain, if you will. Not really a villain per se, but he's the one they're setting up. And the scene on the train with Paul Newman pretending to come in drunk. I really recommend The Sting. It's probably one of my favorite movies now.
Okay.
I've seen it, saw it on a plane, on a flight. I'd heard of it and I thought, I got to see what this movie's about. and it's another movie that's just executed well the whole way through. It's just done really well.
I'm aware of it because the VHS tape stand that my father and stepmother had when I was young had that movie on there, but I never really knew what it was, and I'm not a huge movie guy, so like seeing that there, like she had that Alien, Blade Runner, and stuff. The whole I like scoffed at all. I'm like, oh, whatever, I don't care.
Well, plus the box is just it's got a classic art that's sort of from the 30s. I think it's set in the 30s, if I remember. So the art is more of that 30s style art as well on the box. So as a kid, I could see people, what is this? Is this like a super old movie? I think it's 1970 when it was released. But yeah, I would recommend that one. It's an interesting, not really a spy movie, but that's sort of that element of that is kind of happening where they're setting up the Robert Shaw character for the sting. It's more of a heist, yeah, but it's done really well. It's a really, really fun movie. Lots of good back and forth with the main actors. But Robert Shaw is probably mostly well known for being Quint in the movie Jaws. It's probably where most people recognize him from.
Yeah, no, because I don't think I've even like sat through all of Jaws. I can't. I'm one of those dumb people who
that's okay.
Doesn't have the patience for it.
No, it's fine. But he plays probably the most iconic role of any of the human characters.
I just know the meme of the dude throwing in the chum and going sitting up as Jaws goes at it. That's about all I remember.
When you get you're going to need a bigger boat line.
Yeah, that's all I'm aware of, because that guy looks vaguely familiar from something else.
Sequest, he was on that TV show.
No, that's no, it's I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna bother me. The TV show Millennium. Are you familiar with it?
No.
It came out at the tail end of the 90s, from what I recall, but it was a bit of a darker tinge of where X-Files would get really goofy and out of the way, sort of thing. This went really dark and was that's the Illuminati and kind of like that sort of thing. Okay,
but you're talking about Roy Schneider, is the actor you're talking about?
I'm looking.
He plays Brody.
Sure. Let's see. Main characters' names. No, he looks sort of like, what's his name? Lance Henriksen. To me. That or I'm just
Roy Schneider kind of looks like Lance Henriksen to some degree, but not a lot, but sort of.
In like quick passing, like
yeah, maybe.
Because I'm not. I can see that. They have
kind of like a sharp features on their face, or kind of a pointed nose, and I could sort of see that. But
okay.
I mean, Roy Schneider's character Brody is the one who's scooping up the chum.
Yeah, and you see how quick that is. Like, that's all I really know of the guy, where I'm a lot more familiar with Henriksen because of that TV show. So,
okay.
Really good TV show, from what I remember of it. At least the first season and a half. Because I don't remember anything about it. So it could be absolutely awful and stupid. Don't listen to me. Anywho, From Russia with Love. Let's
move on.
Let us shift back to the Bond film. But what is your history with this movie?
Probably something similar to you. I don't remember. I'd probably seen more of this movie in parts when I was younger, and I couldn't tell you exactly when I would have seen the entire movie one straight sitting. But it had been a long time, and this is the first time I've seen it in quite a while. But a lot of the scenes are still really vivid from seeing this movie. One of the most vivid scenes for me was always when Bond is looking through the periscope, and he has the stupid line of, what does he say exactly? Something
about her features.
All the curves look good, or something like that.
Like she fills in her features well, or something.
I wish I would have wrote it down, but just that stupid scene is very vivid to me. As is the boat scene, the boat sequence at the end.
Yeah, okay.
The flare gun.
Yeah.
So those two particular scenes, but yeah, that's probably about the best I can come up with from what I recall.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of when I would have, it would have been sometime after my time with Millennium. But it would have probably been like when I would have watched it fully and been like, oh, okay. Well, it was early 2000s. Late 90s might be stretching it, but definitely early 2000s when I know for certain, okay, I can concretely be like, I've watched this movie in full by this point.
Okay. I know for sure the first time I watched it in full, though, was during a Bond marathon type event.
Right, because they had those on TV,
TBS or whatever had them.
A&E or something.
Yeah.
Had a weekend of Bond or something.
TBS had that all the time too, where they would
that's what it
take
is, probably.
2 weeks of Bond or whatever, and show a whole bunch of them, a couple a day or something like that. And I'm sure that's where I would have watched the movie in full for the first time in full.
Mm-hmm. Back in the day.
Yep.
So. But yeah, where do you want to kick off on this? There's a lot of different places.
There's a good question. Well, what about? Can we talk about the fact that they decided to not use the From Russia with Love song in the opening credits?
Yeah, it's watching it again. I'm struck thinking how much are these people really interested in it, or just tripping out of their mind that they are projecting the credits on women dancing and doing the belly dances and stuff like that.
Oh, and it must have been at the time pretty risque, I assume. It must have been
right.
That looked hypersexualized, right?
Yeah, that was very
Yeah, because there's a lot of up close shots of a chest, a stomach, thigh, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but
yeah,
this was something that there was the behind the scenes stuff, but also with this on the Blu-ray, the collection thing that I have, it had a few different interviews with Ian Fleming and stuff, which was kind of interesting that they included those in here. Not surprising, but interesting. Because the books were seen as these things are really, really sexual.
Right.
He gets asked point blank about, what are you worried about corrupting the youth? Kind of thing. And he's like, well, they're written for adults, so if the youth's reading it, well, that's their problem because it's written for adults. Just
Fair
so
enough.
No. But I mean, there's a lot of sex, a very detailed sex in there, and everything in there. So that's probably why, they had that first little bit with Dr. No, and it's like, okay, all right, people really like these books, and they like them. So what's outside of the Bond thing? What is it? A lot of sex. So let's kind of push that. That could be the possible reason why they went so hypersexualized with that opening.
Right. And still having to tone it down, obviously. They can't.
Right.
Can only push so far. But I don't know if there's any other films around this time that would have been widely released that perhaps would have shown women's bodies in that way, or
that weren't in the those what were those kind of theaters called? the Porter theaters.
What were they called? I don't know what they were called. They were really prevalent in the 70s, if I remember those kind of theaters. I can't remember what they were called. But but it's an interesting choice that they went with without using the main theme. But I think it works. I think it was appropriate to use it at the end credits rather, partly because just the title, From Russia with Love, it just kind of closes up the film well. And it doesn't necessarily feel appropriate. Yeah, and it doesn't kind of feel appropriate to kick off the adventure with that song.
Mm-hmm. No, I can see that. Yeah, it in a weird way, it does give it its nice little. Partially, I think, because of how that title is, the phrasing of it, it would best be suited after the adventure.
Right.
Everything. Yeah. Right. No, I could agree with that.
Even though Bond signs off on the photograph early in the film.
Yeah, I think that could be the tongue-in-cheek, though, of it, of that why they would do that. So,
well, even he writes it in reverse. He puts with love, and then he writes from Russia.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, it was an interesting choice and very different than the Dr. No beginning, right? With the sort of, I don't know what you would call them, but the dot lights or whatever they are, but
not strobe lights.
No, but this movie,
I know what you're talking.
Yeah, but this movie kind of now puts it on that course of, for the opening sequence, they're going to do some of these kind of, whatever, I don't know, nude shots of women. Like, this becomes kind of a trend after this point, whereas the Dr. No one hadn't really found its footing on what it wanted to present necessarily.
Right. And I mean, in the same hand, it could have just been that in trying to do that at first, there was the staunch no, and then just possibly a little bit of time. It's like, okay, well, they greased the wheels enough. These things make some money, so.
Yeah, only by the second film.
And speaking of which, they ran out of budget on this film.
Okay.
How wild is it to think that? Yeah, they were like splicing things at the last minute. They had to reshuffled the scenes.
Okay.
To what is in the movie from something wildly different. The chess scene would have been the last. It would have been, how did it go? I think it was with the interview with Tatiana Klepp. Klepp meeting with Blofeld, and then Klepp then being on the island, and then the chess match, I think, was how they initially had the scenes, and then they reshuffled them to what they were in the movie.
Okay.
And
so we wouldn't have met Kronstein as early.
Right.
Okay.
And then, like, there are little things that they did, like in that meeting with Blofeld, the first one, they reversed the film so that it looks like Klepp is walking up to the fighting fish.
Okay.
And then they also, because they couldn't afford to set the background the same because they had to reshoot some stuff, they couldn't do that. They couldn't afford it, so what they did was put and you can tell, like, it's not that hard to tell, but I imagine at the time it might not have been something you'd really picked up on. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not that smart. But they did a green screen and they refilmed it, but they refilmed it over. Like, it's not a green screen, but it's like, I think they call it like a screen. They refilmed over it and then spliced Klepp's image, and it might have been Krumstein's as well, but so that she's filmed over her original film self.
Weird.
Just because they reshuffled the scenes and they were trying to get everything to be coherent and everything, and that was how they got around that.
No, I didn't realize that it was such a mess when it came to that, because honestly, for the most part, it's cohesively put together and it flows pretty well. I think the only thing is the last chunk of the movie is rushed.
You can tell that it's an hour and 50 odd minutes versus being if it had that extra 15 minutes that so many other Bond movies have. It's 210 minute. Or not 210 minute, but 130 minute runtime or something. It would have been. They would have been really looking
for something to do.
Better flash. Well, no, I think it'd be a bit better fleshed out with that back end than
probably. But and even despite that sort of rushed bit, it's fine, right? Like, it still adds. It's not as, I don't know, closed with a perfect ribbon and a bow as it possibly could be. But I think that kind of works to this movie's advantage into leading into the next movie.
Agreed.
So
I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know where to go for this movie.
So, how about, because we usually, start with just going through the movie. How about going through some of these characters first?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Paint with the characters first, and then kind of back into the story stuff. So, you have Bond this time around, and Bond doesn't really pop up until properly for the first chunk of this movie, which is, I like that move. Because they had to really do some writing chicanery, we'll say, because they didn't want to be like, hey, let's anger the Russians. Let's make them mad by showing how evil and bad they are. Right. They'll still be bad and evil, but there's an even greater bad and evil, and that is Spectre.
Right.
And to let them have some breathing room, and not only this is something I feel like doesn't get enough attention in some of the latter films, and just in general when it comes to the villain. Sometimes you get the you see them in the room doing their laughing evil stuff. Let me monologue our evil plan.
Right.
You have some of that here, but in the same hand, it works because it's like Blofeld's trying to get what's going on. Like, hey, what are we doing? This is what we're doing. And then he's getting the plan from them, kind of thing. And you don't even get the full extent of like how things are going to work on Klepp's side. So you're getting the cards shown to you, to borrow a phrase from a show I love dearly, Deadwood. You're getting shown the cards at one corner at a time in ways, and I like that. So, like, you get Klepp, who to me, regrettably to some degree, I always think of what is the character's name from Austin Powers that.
Oh, geez, yeah, I don't know
that she's
what that character's
modeled
name is,
after.
Yeah, she's modeled after her for sure. She's always screaming like Scott every. Yeah.
So like I always immediately think of that whenever I see her. But you have Klepp, who is number 3.
Yes.
And she is defected from Russia, but it's not really known, which is a cool aspect to it. I like it's like, oh, they're defected, but it's not really fully.
She's playing both sides still.
Right. It's not knowledge that everybody knows.
Right.
So, and she's this very, in a stereotypical way, very just kind of sterile. You almost get, it's sterile to a degree, especially introduced. It's just straightforward, get the thing done. There is nothing else going on here.
Yeah, I like this character a lot, though, just because she has just a great presence of being creepy enough and abusive enough to those around her, but she's also quite like she's kind of fragile. She's obviously scared of she's only number 3 in the ranking. So she knows who she can boss around and who she needs to look up to, basically.
Good middle management person.
Because she makes fun of Kronstein quite a bit, and denounces his abilities or his plans, but she doesn't mess around with Blofeld.
Right.
And I'm assuming, because Largo was number 2, is that correct? I think Largo was number 2.
Was Largo number 2? I thought he got promoted to number 3 for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, Kronstein is number 5.
He could have been number 2, and I'm just being stupid.
I thought he was number 2. Anyways, obviously there's somebody. I'm pretty sure it's Largo, but she knows her place, but she also knows who she can boss around, who she can push around. And being number 3 is obviously not a low rank, but she just, I like the character because she offers something, she provides something different. It's not just a whole bunch of men in suits, like you said, sitting we get that scene in Thunderball, right? With all the guys just in suits sitting around talking about how great they are. She's something different. She provides. She's just basically this little lady who's, you know, capable of some pretty dastardly things.
Like some brass knuckles to the stomach.
Yeah, that's awesome.
that's just determined whether or not he's fit enough.
Just one single punch and oh, all right, he's good.
He's good.
I'll take him. Well, actually, and that's actually a good point. Is Bond does appear in the beginning of the movie,
sort of.
And I thought, I wonder if audiences were fooled by this in any way. Did they see this and think, oh, he's just choked out, he's now going to be put in a prison cell or something, where they think he's actually dead? I'd be really curious to know what was the sentiment within the first 3 to 5 minutes of the movie. Was it really shocking? For us, of course it's not. We know that it's not. But had that come later in the movie, like if they had shot that and put that scene somehow later in the movie, would that have been quite even a bigger shocker kind of thing?
I don't know. I think it's that. I think there probably would have been the shock of the initial thing, because this is 1963. I'm trying to remember when something like the Beneath the Planet of the Apes came out, because they did that sort of fake out with that, but that was also because Charlton Heston wanted nothing to do with the sequel. But
right. Well, the 60s was probably that time where films were starting to explore those fake outs and stuff, right? You get Psycho, you get those sort of twist plot points that happen either late in the movie or some way mid through. I think films up to that point probably were a little more direct in their approach to the filmmaking and the storytelling. I'm thinking of movies in the 30s and 40s, such as Dracula, let's say, which I watched recently. It's very straightforward, right? There isn't really a twist somewhere along the way. I watched Casablanca last year. There's not really a twist along the way necessarily. You just kind of get bits of the story, and then you get a big chunk of the story of like why the characters are sort of having a hard time getting back together and working together, but it's not really a twist per se. The only movie I can think of before this, and I haven't seen all of the Maltese Falcon, so I could be wrong on that one. And I wouldn't consider a movie like Key Largo, which is more of a whodunit. But what's that? A Treasure of the Sierra Madre. That kind of has a twist to it, and I won't spoil it, even though it's super old. And I don't know if you've seen that movie, but there's kind of a twist as the movie gets laid on in the movie. But for the most part, I think the 60s was really that time where it's trying to get that shock value out of the film or the story.
I'll take your word for it, because I'm not really as I get there's like some stuff. Oh yes, the 60s. The 60s is a time of great turmoil, a lot of doom, a lot of dread. Wasn't Silent Running from the 60s as well?
I don't know.
A lot of peculiar sci-fi.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Going back to your thing, I don't know. Maybe they were like, what? Bond's dead. In that first handful of minutes, I actually really like it a lot, because it's like, Bond really did a no in killing Dr. No.
Yep.
And Spectre is really pissed off right now. They're not happy campers. And I like that aspect that carries over, and that they're okay. We're literally going to have somebody wear a mask that looks like Bond and have our henchmen trained to kill this dude.
Right.
Sorry, dude, you're wearing the mask.
Right. Sorry. And he volunteers.
Right.
So he must have peed in somebody's cereal or sat on the wrong toilet or something at some point to be having to give that job, right? That's a one-way stop to death. Right. But it is funny that they show Grant is being groomed, obviously, to be one of these agents. And obviously they're implying that there's more agents because they show that training that's going on. But it's funny that Rosa Klebb, like you said, punches him in the stomach once with brass knuckles as if this wasn't already an inevitable choice. I guess if he keeled over and was like, and like, his kidney burst or something, I suppose she wouldn't take him. But but I like the foreshadowing of that sort of hunting scene, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, and how it reflects back to the train sequence we were talking about. It's almost identical, just rather than being out in not a forest maze, sorry, but like a what am I looking for?
The garden.
The garden maze, thank you.
Yeah.
It's on the train. So really cool. This is like an amazing spy movie. That's one thing I think that just before we touch on more characters, this is a spy movie through and through.
Yeah, and not only that, but there is a lot of things that Bond likes to do that Spectre's like, okay, all right, go ahead. We'll let you do that. And yeah, okay, it gets fixed in the end. Yeah, maybe they should have made copies. But in the same hand, it's it shows there's a supreme competence in the baddies in this film versus just kind of like a buffoonery. I mean, there's some buffoonery in this film, I would say, with the boat sequence.
I'd say that, and the helicopter. I think they borrowed a little bit too much from North by Northwest. Yes, they did.
But that's actually Sean Connery doing that stuff. So props to him to avoid helicopter blades as close or as far as they were, right? So, I mean, that could have just been because the time being inspired by it, it doesn't quite work so well now. But, like you said, they were on point in making this work. I'll say that.
Yeah. But back to your original point with the characters, there are a lot of really good supporting characters in this movie. I think we've kind of touched upon Grant, which we'll probably get back to. Kronstein is, competent enough as sort of just this, I don't know, he's not even a secondary character. He's almost like a third character, third rung kind of thing. He's just kind of there to help move a little bit of the plot along here and there. He seems like he's going to have a more important role since he's showcased right at the beginning of the movie. But he's kind of put off to the side. You almost think he's going to show up for a fight or something at some point, but obviously he doesn't. He's more of just trying to pull the strings from behind the curtain a lot.
Well, and he's also the one that sets up the plan in the first place.
Right.
And, he's kind of like the brain behind, or like the clinical study of, oh yes, they know it'll be a trap, but British hubris, they'll see it as a challenge. I'm like, oh, that's a really good, I like that. That's good. Good slap in the face.
Yeah, no, it's clever to think that he's trying to utilize their proudness against them, right? And their sort of folly of, oh yeah, we can solve any problem,
right?
And taking advantage of their arrogance to some degree.
Yeah, and I think that point there, their arrogance, if it had been something like, oh yeah, they'll just trip over themselves and be silly buffoons here. No, it's that, just pitting their arrogance against them. It's a good move to make there.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have, there's not really much to say about Blofeld. For the longest time, I seriously thought Sean Connery played Blofeld in this. Because the voice?
Isn't that where the rumor of, what was that cartoon? Inspector Gadget?
Yeah, that Dr. Claw was just like a dark gadget. Yeah. For sure. But his voice just sounds like a garbled Connery voice.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who they got for that.
Well, it doesn't help when you watch the credits because there's just a question mark in the credits. It doesn't give you any hint of who it is. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. Like
it is good that
keeping within the spy theme and keeping a little mystery going. But it's not. It is another actor. I still don't know if Connery voices somehow because they do a lot of dubbing in a lot of these older movies. But anyway, so I think I'd just clip over Blofeld other than he's really just more introduced here and say, yeah, he's obviously the head guy to go after at some point. Mm-hmm. But what do you think about Tatiana?
I don't dislike her because how she's introduced and everything is that she is there to be the snack within the snare,
mm-hmm.
so to say. And so you don't so you're already on the mind of, yeah, she's really not, she's just doing this. She's not really wanting to defect.
Right.
This is just this is all a ruse. And then it sort of, the ruse becomes reality, which is a little, this is the one kind of strike it up to the Bond penis moment here. Kind of, that's the only thing I can think of. I don't know what else would have.
Bond's hairy legs, so charming. But she's obviously filled in on him, right? She's given like a dossier essentially about him to know his likes, his dislikes, and so forth. So she's she's informed. She's not just like, we just recently watched The Living Daylights, and I think I don't think we had a problem necessarily with oh my goodness, why is the name? I'm lost the name.
Because we record these super late and
oh no, who's the lead? The cellist.
Miriam
Darbo's her real name, but what's her? Oh no, I can't think of her character. Anyway, she's on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? She's a fish out of water. She's manipulated kind of in a similar fashion, but has no clue what's going on. Whereas Tatiana is basically told everything she needs to know, but she's been misled while getting that information. So I like that. I like that she thinks she's doing this for her country. She thinks she's doing this for the right reasons. She's led to believe it's for the right reasons. She's also, basically forced to do so. She's going to be executed if she doesn't. And so maybe there's a bit of that in the back of her mind too. And it's probably not just Bond, but she's also probably fearful for her life. If she fails this or doesn't do it adequately, she's going to get killed. So she almost wants to now defect partly because of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that or what's the psychological case of like when somebody's
Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah, kind of like a nuance sort of pivot on that, where it's like, hey, this is because they survive all these experiences, sort of thing. Even if she was sort of drugged out on some of it there. But like with the boat thing at the end and the helicopter and, just some of these instances. That's why I'm, maybe you could chalk it up to that, but that's where I'm kind of like, or in just the simple sense that, maybe even though that was her mission, she just kind of fell into it and, without being able to, no ripcord to get out.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's always a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. But I do like the line when Bond is trying to get all that information out of her when they're on the boat. And he's asking about the size of we'll get to the plot of it, but the lector.
Yeah, very clinical. I like that, yeah.
Yeah, but she's the one who's going off script. Oh, will you make love to me? He's like, day and night. And then he just goes right to the next question.
Well, it shows a professionalism in Bond. Right. And that once business is business, the pleasure thing, no. No, not
that
right now.
certainly changes a lot with time, as the series goes on.
Right. But yeah, no, that back and forth is one that I can certainly appreciate.
Yep, for sure.
But yeah, with her all around, yeah, she doesn't bother me. It's just that turn from, you'll do what I say to the very end. It's like, Simon did not say shoot at me. So it's like a little, so.
I have to chalk that up that I think she knows by that point that she's going to die if she doesn't kill Cleb. I think she's gone through, like you said, she gets drugged on the train. I think that she's now aware that she's a disposable asset. And that she's failed her mission, essentially. Because she's made a choice earlier to aid Bond, so maybe it goes back to your earlier point. Yeah, perhaps. Maybe he was charming enough for her. But she's way past the point of saving at that. And it's kind of funny she even struggles to they kind of imply, oh, she might shoot Bond, she might shoot Cleb. But there really isn't a choice. If she shoots Bond, she's dead. Like they're going to kill her. They're going to put her in a gulag and kill her at some point.
Could have done secret option C, shoot them both.
She could have. she could have.
Could have. She did not.
She wouldn't have another way out after that. I don't think she had a plan C. Like if she did that, I don't think she had anywhere to go, and she probably think the Russians would track her down at some point.
Probably. Yeah, that's true. The other person we really haven't mentioned here is character I do want to talk about is Karen Bay. Because I totally forgot what I was going to do. Oh no. I am a forgetful person. But I did not forget about Karen Bay.
You can't. He's a really key character and played well in this movie.
Yeah. I mentioned it a little bit beforehand, but Pedro Armendariz. I'm butchering that last name.
I'm not going to try, yeah.
But a Mexican actor, and his son is in License to Kill, which is pretty neat. But it came to light while they were filming it that he was sick with inoperable cancer. And so they were quick to get his scenes filmed. And there was times where they would have to prop him up to keep him going because he was just fading fast.
Right.
And in the film you can't really tell that.
No, he seemed pretty vital, right? He didn't seem ill at all.
I mean, yeah, he gets shot at one point, so he, a little bit of wounded there, and even up until right before he is killed by the jerk Grant, he has that nice little kind of last little line about it's like, oh, you want to hear about my life? I've got a lot to tell, or something like that.
Oh yeah, he's got the guy at hostage.
Right.
And does he pull out a big cigar too?
It's like a yellow
cigarette
pipe or something. Yeah. And I like his character because he's the what do they call him? I don't want to say T branch for turkey, but it was.
But he's it's a part of the MI6 umbrella, but I don't know exactly what the agency, that he represents.
But he's the one that deals, gets Bond going all through Istanbul and everything, and he has all of his sons, his many sons, which he has that line about what was it, blood is the safest like the safest course for business or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's, it makes sense to some degree, right? That's the ones you can trust the most is your family, because he lays it out for Bond. It's like, hey, the Balkans are a bit different. We know we're following and chasing each other.
Right.
It's it's not a secret.
No.
We know,
we're playing
the
game, but everyone's kind of cordial about it.
Right.
Do you think those were literally his sons, all of them? Because there's quite a lot.
Yeah, it could have been.
I mean, it very well could have been, but I wasn't sure if he was also implying that maybe some of them are birth sons, but some of them are kind of brought into the family kind of thing.
Oh, maybe like son-in-law.
Yeah, or even adoptees or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought as well as you that these are probably his actual birth sons, maybe from different wives or whatever. But I also thought maybe he just calls them his sons and they're not. But because you're right, the line does sort of make it sound as if they are his blood. But I know people that you get involved with a family and you become part of the family.
Mm.
And it's even more so than some of the actual birth family members do. So.
Right. Yeah. But, he's Karen Bay's pretty busy for this, like, a good chunk of the middle of the film.
Yep.
And, there's a bit between him and Bond. I know we haven't really gone to the story yet, but, there's a really cool point. It probably has one of my favorite lines. And it is when they're taking care of some trash, we'll say, after a certain gypsy shootout kind of thing.
Yep.
There's this remark of, how can a friend be in debt?
Mm.
And I always really like that line. I like that the repertoire that those, like, Bond, Connor's Bond and Karen Bay, how they have, like, this business-like, but also very friendly. Hey, you can see how Karen's a lot more, there's a lot more warmth to him, where Bond is a lot more like, come on, let's just get this kind of thing. Let's do this. Let's just...
You're too soft to be a gypsy.
Yeah, I like that line too. Your heart's too soft to be a gypsy.
Yeah. I think you're right. And it's a really nice dynamic. And it's something different that we do see here and there, but often Bond's partners, if they don't end up being the female compatriot, the male partners are usually kind of in the same mindset or the same skill level as Bond.
Or mood.
Yeah.
Tone.
But in this case, he was much more jovial. He was very open about his like his feelings and his attitude. And it's very different. But it also kind of lets the Connery Bond kind of, I wouldn't say open up, but he certainly wasn't quite as rough around the edges. It felt like when Karam's almost teaching him at times.
In ways, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, more so because it's the environment around them, not because Bond is incapable of doing his job, but more so understanding that we kind of see this in You Only Live Twice as well, with Tiger Tanaka, right? Like, you are in a very different place than you're used to, and you have to understand that the set of rules are not going to be the same.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
But I agree. Karam's a really good character. It's really great, and it's probably fitting that he doesn't make it to the end of the movie. He's dispatched a little bit, I don't know, unceremoniously.
Right.
Unfortunately, like, Bond doesn't really get a chance to maybe, I don't know if it's necessarily say goodbye, but it's kind of
like
just
that though. Like, yeah, it's not great for the character dynamic and stuff, but this is showing the wheels are coming off the track, or like the train's coming off the track sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you see, it's teetering all throughout,
yeah,
because Bond's being led or he's being led by the hook, hooked by the nose through a lot of this. And then that happens, and he's like, okay, and then shows him being able to just keep going with it, and then just taking over and everything. I don't know. It is a bummer that is how he passes, but he has that really good last line, and I wish there was a little bit more, because what does Bond do? He basically pays not a bell keep, but the train waiter.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to phrase it, but pays him to keep quiet, and the guy says something like, "Oh, I'll try," kind of thing, and gives him that look.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Try harder, boy.
Right. Yeah.
This character, now that I'm thinking about it, also reminds me a bit of Mathis from Casino Royale.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities with that character.
A little bit. Like, Karam's not as worn down feeling. Mathis feels like he's really just worn down.
Yep. But there's a lot of that sort of, like, he shows him to play by the rules. Remember when they find the dead body, and he's like, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're not useful anymore. Something to that effect. So there's some parts of that, like teaching Bond, that there's more to the game than maybe you're aware of at this point. Or, again, where you're at is not going to be the same as where you were.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, great character.
Yeah, that, and I guess last little thing, the Q pops up here.
Yes, he does.
So, yeah.
Well, there's actually three. There's three really small characters I was going to touch upon. Q is one.
Okay. Yeah.
So our first introduction to Q, they don't call him Q in this, though. What do they call him? Arms Master or something like that?
It's like the Arms Master.
Yeah. So they don't actually refer to, he's from Q Branch, but they don't refer to him specifically as Q.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. And then we get the suitcase with all of the cool little stuff in there with the gold sovereigns and
which is a really
sniper rifle. He uses everything in there too.
He uses everything, and this is something that I had mentioned to you before that I wanted to talk a little bit about, is that they've really, after probably pushing more so into the 90s with Brosnan to a degree, and then especially as we've gone along, the gadgetry, there's not a lot of obfuscation with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just there sort of thing. And if there's obfuscation, it's stupid die another day obfuscation of cloaked vehicles.
Right.
And this is something I wish there was more of, where it's like something that looks like it's supposed to be this, but it's something else entirely, kind of thing. I like that aspect, because to me that's really, really clever. Yeah, it can come off as hokey, cheesy, whatever. You know what though? It's really cool to me. And like with the sovereigns isn't the thing so much, but where instead you twist the knobs to go horizontal to open the briefcase so it doesn't blow up on you. Cool.
Yeah.
Right. The knife that spits out. All right. Like things like that. That it doesn't take much.
No.
I'm not asking for it's just Cowboy Bebop. Faye just woke up and things are not anything like that.
Yeah. We'll get to that series at some point, I'm guessing. So.
But
I like the Gold Sovereigns. It still comes up though in dialogue later on. It's not just a throwaway. It's not just if you needed money for some reason, and it could have been as simple as that. Bond needed to check into a hotel and he got his bank accounts all frozen or something, so he pulled out the Gold Sovereigns. But it's used in a really great way of fooling somebody into thinking, oh, okay.
Well, it's not even fooling, but coaxing out the greed of somebody.
Sure. Well, it ends up becoming a fool, fool's trap, obviously, but But yeah, it's good.
But it's layered in that it's there's two of them, right?
Right.
So it's you already get the one, and then it's like, oh well, there's the one and the other one, and we'll get to that scene, but yeah, it's It's really
it's
good.
simple but good writing. Like it's simple
Exactly.
but really good writing. It's executed well. They like you said, they added a wrinkle or a layer that as a viewer I was not expecting. I was just thinking the first time I seen the movie, oh, the gold sovereigns are just going to be used to pay somebody for a truck because they're stuck out in the desert or something, right? Something as simple as that
just
you might
something to
expect.
get tossed away.
Yeah, or something to like that, or even not even used at all, perhaps. But Bond uses the items in this briefcase. He uses that sniper rifle several times.
I love that thing. That thing is cool.
Yeah,
it's just just put
simple
it together
tool.
And stuff. Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, but the two other characters, and one's not actually a character, so I'm going to leave that one last. But
okay.
Sylvia Trench shows up again in this movie.
Yeah,
which I didn't remember. I was really taken aback at that. At first, I had to do a double take, thinking, "Am I seeing things? Why does that character look so familiar?" And I had to think about it, and it was kind of cool that she came back in a second movie, just kind of unexpectedly. I thought it was a neat way to make film goers connect. Oh, the first movie to this movie. It wasn't just M and Bond. There's some of those other characters are still around. I don't believe she's in Goldfinger or anything after this that I recall, but I guess we'll get to that. But she wasn't in Thunderball, so.
Right.
But I thought that was kind of neat that they brought her back for just that little scene.
With hairy legs.
Yeah.
He is a very hairy man.
He was a very hairy man. What does she say? Something... I'm just an old case to you or something.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was kind of a cute line.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, that was Moneypenny said something over the well, he had a car phone, before the car phone was really widely introduced, as a functioning piece of technology for a vehicle. It was pretty cool to see that, I'm sure, in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Indeed.
And then can you guess who the last one is by any chance?
Well, now that you've said that it's not really a character, I'm kind of confused.
Okay. Well, it's a, from what everybody seems to believe, it's a cameo. So when the train drives by later in the movie, there's a man standing over by the tracks. He's wearing a white top and I assume blue jeans, but blue pants. That's supposed to be Ian Fleming. So there are pictures. There are pictures of Ian Fleming in this particular outfit.
Well, because I know he visited.
So he was on set. So a lot of people are. No one is I guess 100% confirmed it, but it does seem to be Ian Fleming. And the guy's smoking. He's just on the side of the tracks, and you can't really see his face. It's obscured by his head is turned. But from what everyone seems to believe, it's Ian Fleming. And it's a blink and you miss it because it's 3 seconds. It's the train is driving away from the camera, and he's right there, and he just kind of steps off screen as the train drives off. So it's like, oh, cool. And as far as I know, that's the only time he's ever been filmed in any of the movies.
I mean, yeah, because I think he passed shortly after this.
No, I don't think it's quite after this. I think he's still around for Goldfinger. I think it's a few more films.
Well, what year did it was Goldfinger 65? Because he passed in 64.
Goldfinger would have been 64. Thunderball is 65, and You'll Live Twice is 67.
That's right. Yeah, because they tried to do
because
that yearly.
On Her Majesty's is the last 60s movie. 69. Yeah. I don't know why I know that, but these things came out year after year. It was they just
they were making an effort to try to do one Bond movie.
Oh yeah, they were pumping these things out.
So, but he passed at 64, so it could have been.
Well, so he was still on set for Goldfinger then. I'm sure I've seen pictures of Connor and him joking around on the set of Goldfinger.
Right. I mean, it could have been right before it was released and.
Yeah, well, if they were filming at the time, then would have made sense. But then if he passed away, just after release or whatever, so.
But, or before while they're doing.
Perhaps, yeah. So, but so anyways, it's supposed to be Ian Fleming, from what everyone seems to be able to connect the dots of his outfit and stuff. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. Yeah, any other?
I don't have any other major characters, at least, that I would tackle. I mean, there's all kinds of little, I don't know, underlings here and there and everywhere kind of moving around and stuff. I mean, as we already talked about earlier, for me, this is probably the most espionage out of any of the Bond movies. Like, this movie really pushes that espionage piece. And yes, there's some gunplay and stuff in the movie, but it kind of dials that down and looks really to that suspense side of the story. And the mystery part.
Yeah, like, so let's get into the story, because that's the whole crux of it. Spectre's angry.
Yeah, they're not too pleased.
The Spectre is mighty angry that Bond killed Dr. No. Yeah. And they are hellbent on taking him out. Yeah. But not just taking him out, but humiliating him before killing him.
Right.
And to me, I love that they, like, there's this twist of the dagger where it's like, all right, sure, yeah, we could kill him. That's everybody dies, you know. Okay, yawn. But we want to make it a little extra.
Yeah.
Cause you know, we don't like getting somebody to poke us in the eye.
Yeah, they want to put the rainbow sprinkles and cherry on top. A little side of whipped cream.
Right. And so, you know, they go through this whole, like, so, yeah, they Kronstein makes a plan. Number 5 makes a plan.
Yep.
And that plan is not only there to, you know, take out Bond, but also to play to the weakness of the hubris of the British MI6.
Right.
And just, oh, well, you know, they'll be so full of themselves, they'll see that this is a trap and then think, oh, well, we know it's a trap, but we're still going to be able to, you know, get through it and stuff. And it's just like, oh, boy.
Well, it's a really interesting way of calculating the enemy and understanding the history that's kind of led up to this, you know, basically from World War I to, and sort of that British pride, right, of we withstood, you know, this assault, you know, Battle of Britain. We can kind of get through anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of that. Patriotism is like one piece of it, but then just the, like you said, that pride piece of
it will, and
not really having failed, I guess, a lot.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They had such great breaks in cryptography. Mm-hmm. Like, it's no small wonder they would have a balloon-sized ego, right, with all the code cracking that went on in the night, you know, World War I, World War II. Like they.
Is it Alan Turing?
Turing, yeah, Turing. And they also, you know, were able to recover pieces and parts of things to be able to decrypt different sort of crypt keeping or crypt code stuff that the Germans were using in World War II. And yeah, they had a really strong reason to be kind of full of themselves.
Yeah. And they also found the Ark of the Covenant, so
yes, that too.
I guess the Americans did, but
jeez,
and put it in a warehouse.
Yep. Buried with all the stuff.
Yep. Which leads to Spielberg being like, we have to make an American James Bond, which leads to Indiana Jones with George Lucas. The whole Indiana Jones stuff is actually really fascinating as well. Just the whole idea of the character and how they wanted that to kind of be like a James Bond type character, not necessarily like a spy, but just a very, you know, worldly adventurous type hero.
Okay.
So yeah, it's actually really interesting.
I would say, yeah, you'd certainly know a lot more about that than me, because not that I hate the movies or anything, I'm just not I didn't really watch them as much as a kid. Mm. Outside of Last Crusade, which was on every Sunday, chopped up for TV viewing, and I got sick of it.
Well, if it's chopped up, then yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just like...
Well, that's why they ended up getting Connery. is because the Spielberg always wanted. He said like Connery. He's like, who can play the dad of Indiana Jones? Well, there's only one person. It's James Bond. So you should watch some of the documentaries. It's actually really interesting. And most people that I've met that are Bond fans are also very strong Indiana Jones fans as well.
At least the first three.
Yes. Even though I personally don't have that much of a problem with Crystal Skull, I think it's kind of
the aliens.
It doesn't bother me that much.
Okay.
I like the idea, well, more so because it's set in the 60s, and like just after the 50s, there was all of that, like, that sort of mentality of making alien stories. Like there was all those pulp novels and stuff like that. Like it was, I personally, even like the nuking of the fridge, like I understand why people get mad about that. I'm like, I understand where their minds went with this stuff. The idea that, lead lined bases would protect from nuclear fallout and stuff. Like I know some of the historical backstory as to why. Maybe they're not great film choices, but I see where they went with some of this stuff, and it's like it doesn't bother me. It just seems to be, when like things are just they're easy targets and easy to pick on.
No, yeah, and so everybody just piles on.
I think people
okay, we get it.
It's not a great movie. It's not, but it was just an easy movie to pick on because it does have bad CG and it does. And people love so much those other movies, and so I just think it was a really easy whipping.
Which is kind of weird because isn't the second one kind of awful? Isn't Temple of Doom sort of a bad one?
It's not awful. It's just it doesn't fall in line with the first and the third in the sense that the enemies are not clear cut. Like the Nazis are clear cut enemies and they're clear cut bad people. Whereas he ends up in an Indian village and it's like, okay, well these are cultists, which is really really bad, but I think the vibe is a lot darker and stuff too. It's not quite as adventure. Like Indy goes from Hong Kong. Is it Hong Kong or Shanghai? I can't remember. I haven't seen it in a while. But anyways, so he comes out of China and the plane goes down over India. And then they're just in India the rest of the movie. So it loses some of that steam of like, you got to go to here,
world adventure.
Here. Yeah. So I think that's kind of part of the reason people don't like it. And then there's a particular character in there that's quite
the kid.
No, the Willie Scott. She's always screaming, and so a lot of people that really irks, because she's constantly screaming. Like
I would be too.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Dude's ripping hearts out of people's chests.
That was Steven Spielberg's wife at that time too. Anyways, we can look at India another day.
Sidetrack. Okay.
North by Northwest.
Yeah, North by Northwest. Yeah. That kind of comes up in this movie in a way.
Kind of, yeah, kind of.
Okay. So, like really laid the groundwork. Spectre's out to get Bond.
Yeah. Smash. No. Spectre.
Right. Well, because they had to change it. Like they made Spectre because it was like, well, the Russians probably would get kind of peeved. Yeah. Secret option C, Spectre. Let's go.
Yeah. I think it's a way better idea anyways to do that, right? To basically take the political side as much as possible out of the equation and just have this unknown entity that can have Russians, can have Americans, can have whatever, all these different people be part of an evil organization.
Yeah, you can play with that a bit better and, do your allegorical pieces and parts and stuff so you don't have to, you can dress it up like, oh, X country is doing bad thing, but we're going to use a person from Y country to kind of wag our finger about it.
Yeah. Well, look at the complicated story beats of Living Daylights.
Right.
Like into present day, that's not really, you probably wouldn't write the story the same way as history has evolved over time. Right. So the less you can put emphasis on these are the bad people and these are the good people. Well, at any moment, the quote unquote good people could become the bad people.
Dun dun dun.
So yeah. Anyways,
unless they're Nazis, they're always bad.
They're pretty hard to shine in a good light.
Oh, goodness. But where do you want to roll with this?
I think you just keep rolling forward with this. Like Bond, kind of like you said, the Brits kind of fall into the trap and
they know it's a trap.
They're going to go forward with this, regardless, and stick it to this evil. Well, I guess at the time they still think it's the Russians.
Right, but they think it's a trap being laid by the Russians.
Right. So they're not quite fully aware, other than they know it's a trap and they believe this is who's setting the trap, without having a full awareness of Spectre being the ones pulling the strings.
Right.
So they send Bond in, even though he's at least seemingly aware that she's out to kill him.
I wouldn't say kill, but something's something. I don't know about it. I don't know.
Well, she's about to stick him with a shoe blade. A poison tip shoe blade.
With Tatiana there, he's under the impression that this seems like a trap.
Right.
But I mean,
even
I guess
she's
you
blackmailed, right? We talked about that earlier too. That Tatiana's blackmailed into this position,
right, by Klepp, who just defected, but unbeknownst to other people. So Klepp kind of tightens the screws on Tatiana to have her basically
do the dirty work.
Do the dirty work, and do whatever Bond tells her.
Right.
And so
make love to her night and day.
Right. Oh boy. And that is actually something to bring up about it as well, is that Spectre films the naughty bits.
They sure do.
Because that's just such a entirely different mindset of world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, nowadays people do not have any sort of shame or otherwise, we'll say, about that sort of thing.
It's not shame, it's promoted.
Right. But here, this is part of their twist to humiliate him.
Right.
Was that, to film him and then, having sex with a Russian spy.
Right.
Is part of this humiliation, and to me that was like oh crap, that's a really,
at the time, sure,
at the time, that's a really good dig to be like, okay, all right, we're gonna have this film of it, and
the microfiche.
The microfiche. And and she's not aware of this either, so
right. They're going to be able to scapegoat her as well, right? And if they get caught somehow, they can push her off and be like, oh yeah, no, look, she's in love with a British agent, so can get her in trouble too.
Yeah, so it's a really a good, that's the good plan there, number 5.
Yep. Good. Doesn't he say something like, Kronstein doesn't make bad plans or something? something silly. I love his death. I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but that's an amazing death. And did you see who kills him?
It's
it's Golgov from.
Not
Golgov. What's the? It's not Golgov. What's the Soviet general? What's his name? It's the same actor though.
Okay, maybe I'm not.
He's the same Soviet director in those later Moore movies.
Okay, you've lost me.
So the guy who kills Kronstein, the same heavy thug in this movie, is the same actor who plays that general in those later Moore movies as well.
Is it?
It is. It for sure is. I'll look for his name while we're hitting the next beat, but it's the same actor. It's 100% the same actor. Because I noticed it right away. I said, that's the same guy. So many of these actors come back.
I must say face blind, because now I'm lost. I'm lost. I don't know what you're talking about.
So the actor is Walter Gotell, and he plays General Golgo. Gol. I can't pronounce his name right. He's the one who's in Spy Who Loved Me. He shows up. Right. Yeah, that's the same actor.
Is it?
100%. I'm looking at it right now.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, I must be face blind.
Well, he's only on screen really briefly. like, you have to be paying attention that it's him, right? Like, he walks in the room, he stands next to Kleb, and then it's implied that she's going to be the one who gets...
Because she's sweating bullets.
Yeah, like, she's the one who's going to get canned, and then Kronstein's there, you know, like, puffing out his chest, like, you know, foolish, you know, number 3, you should have sent the right man for the job, and then he takes the blade to the ankle. He takes the...
Blofeld's like, you know, poison, 12 seconds.
12 seconds. Like, we have to find a faster reaction to poison. That's what I love out of it. But,
not
yeah,
efficient enough.
Funny that's the same actor, though. They bring him back in a higher ranking role later on.
Okay. Now, I think I just got my brain mixed up thinking of Blofeld with Dawson, because he was in there as Dent in Doctor No, and so because he's his hands, Dawson's wonderful hands are
should have been a hand model
there. right.
What was that, Zoolander with the hand model? You broke my hand. That hand, what was it? Like, I can't remember. I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Yeah, it's been ages.
What is that thing to, like, maintain his hand or whatever, right? So, like, it doesn't age or whatever. Yeah. What is this, school for ants? It has to be at least 3 times bigger than this. That's a pretty underappreciated movie now. Like,
I don't know.
Now it is. I think for a while there, it was, you couldn't escape it. It was everywhere for a while.
And now it's I mean, that's the same thing with Austin Powers, I think.
For a bit there, yeah.
Yeah. It's still good.
Well, we're really all over the board here.
That's all right.
Kronstein would have just defeated us in chess in about 5 seconds.
But, yeah, so Klepp puts Tatiana to work to basically lure Bond in to steal a decryption device and
seduce Mr. Bond.
Yeah, seduce Bond, and it's located in the Soviet consulate there in Istanbul. Yep. And that's where Bond links up with Karim.
Yep.
Karim Bey, and he gets this understanding of things are different there in the Balkans when it comes to the East and West.
Yep.
Cloak and Dagger is less Cloak and Dagger, and more,
I mean, what a perfect city for it too.
Right. Like, and I mean, you could have pushed things a little northern to a small podunk kind of thing.
But I mean, that's perfect city for that. You know, Asia meets Europe. Like, it's.
Well, I say that more of in a historical sense.
Well, it's 100% historical. In 1453.
Okay, Jan. I'm talking like Alexander historical.
Well, it goes beyond that, but 1453 is really a key date to get to. You know,
I'm talking Alexander, who tried to marry the East and West. There's a lot of different places you can go with that. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
From a more, because Alexander's way before that.
Well, but I'm saying, but that was his goal. Was to try, that's why, like, Mithridates the VI, you know, that was kind of the you pushed. This is the culmination of what Alexander wanted.
Yeah, the sun will never set on the.
To hell with you, Rome. To hell with you, Rome. And then, you know, he did his best.
Yeah.
He was cool. All right. Still. Anyways, but that's what I was more so being cheeky about, because that's not quite Istanbul, but
yeah.
But I mean, this is a fantastic location to have that. Yeah, it's a beautiful city, and just the. This is something I wish they had more of, but it's nice to have like little sections of people speaking Russian, people speaking Turkish, and I know this has been done in some of the older films here and there, but it feels like
Casablanca actually did that really well.
It feels like we've really drifted away from that in some of the latter Bond stuff, and it's just like maybe like a throwaway line here and there, but not. It feels a little bit more peppered in, as it should be, kind of thing. So, yeah. I want to pass the reins over to you so you can lead this one, so I'm not talking the whole time.
Sure. So basically from there we get, this is kind of shoehorned in a little bit, but the gypsy camp. Well, I like it because it's a good change of pace from everything that's going on with very espionage and very, very much like somebody's following somebody and who do you trust? And then we just get to this much more, I don't know, eclectic type environment that's just, it's still within the vein of what's going on, but it just adds a little bit of a flavor that's kind of helps keep the, the stew cooking kind of thing.
Right, yeah, it gives it a nice little change of scenery to keep things break. Fresh. And part of it's, there was an attempt on Bay's life, so it's like, oh, hey, we need to get out of Dodge
for a bit, yeah. Let things cool down. And it's funny how Karam is so surprised by that attempt on his life, because he says again something to the effect of, we're always out in the open with each other.
Right.
And I would have heard something if this was going to come down. Like, this is really unexpected of
planting the seed.
And he blames the Russians at this point.
Right. Yeah. Even though he's blaming the Russians, this is supposed to be the seed that's being planted for Bond's character to put the pieces together to be like Spectre.
Right.
So.
Right. But so we get the gypsy settlement, and it's funny. Connery's really engaged in most of this movie. Like but he's very serious for the vast majority of the film. But that scene when the gypsy dancer is dancing, and the look on his face, he is thoroughly enjoying that performance. And not only him, like all of the other men at that table and stuff. But him in particular, because he looks quite serious for a good chunk of it. And then it's almost like a gag was played or something, because he's almost chuckling at something that's happening.
And he would do that to the other actors because they're, he would, what's Tatiana's name? What's her real name?
She's Italian.
Daniela, like Bianchi.
Yeah.
Like he, later on when she's knocked out and he puts her on the bed there in the train, I guess he tickles her a whole bunch. That kind of thing. That's pretty funny, you try to be serious.
Serious, yeah. Right. Oh, is that when he's like, tell me, talk, like that?
No. This is when she's knocked out.
So after Grant had spiked her drink.
After the dinner, yeah. So.
And he throws her in the truck and stuff too.
Right.
Yep. So we get that gypsy settlement, and then we get that kind of cool shootout there, because there's those guys come to take Karam out again. What is the name of that assassin? I can't remember that assassin's name. He's supposed to be Russian assassin.
Krolenko or something?
So, and Karam saying, this guy's been a thorn in my side for years, and I thought he had left, and now he's suddenly back. So that doesn't really get explained well, though. Like, if that's somebody doing that out of his own volition, or if Spectre's kind of set that up, like, I didn't really get that clarity.
I think it was. I want to say it was probably some prodding from Spectre dressed as a Russian thing to just, hey, cause a little bit of fire. Don't kill X target, Y target.
Right.
Just cause some trouble, because Grant is there and he saves Bond's life.
Yes, he does.
So.
And Bond seems pretty surprised. He doesn't know who's taking out that guy.
What's going on? He's just like, oh, okay. Somebody.
He also is very foolishly running right in the middle of a gunfight, basically.
Right.
There's bullets flying everywhere, and he's just standing around right in the middle. But
he's very stiff. He's got GoldenEye AI movements going there, where he's just like, oh, go to the knee.
Right.
Shoot. Like, just.
Yep. But that leads to that really cool visual of the assassin trying to escape, right? When the authorities find where he's at and he's escaping that building. And it's that mouth, and then he's coming out, and then we get the obviously silly gag with the she should have kept her mouth shut or whatever.
Right.
But that's a cool scene, because Karam gets his little moment to shine with his sniper ability with the even though he's got the sore arm from the the ricocheted bullet or whatever.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. And
right, and this is the scene where it has the line, "How can a friend be in debt?"
Right.
Kind of thing, in that area of the film and stuff. And
I just like that it's at night. It adds a little bit of the espionage again to the sequence being at night, and
I do wish there was a little
around.
bit more because there's not as much sneaking with them.
No.
It's a pretty abrupt sneak up. I wish there was a little bit more. Just kind of gets it.
Maybe short on time or something.
Well, there was the budget and everything, and then also Pedro's health. So like I get it, but it's like I wish there was a little bit more. So
right. Well, we've kind of jumped to that next part a little bit already because we were talking. You've talked about them filming Bond and Tatiana. That's kind of all the stuff that happens in between the next section of the movie,
right?
And then which. Tell me if I'm missing anything, but that kind of just glazes right into the train sequence.
There's a little bit. There's the intersplicing of the stuff going on with Tatiana, where she's giving him this information.
Oh, right, and that's where he's got the recorder, and that's where the silly like, day and night joke comes from.
Right, and he's being pretty to the point on getting the information that he needs.
Right.
So it's showing that nice professionalism on his part, where it's not a brute, but more of curt and stuff, which is nice.
Was that where the M joke comes in?
About them being in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there?
And that's when M's like, yep, nope, well, we're good.
That's certainly enough information.
Right. Yeah.
Which is interesting because M as his superior, they have a very business-like relationship. You can tell that they get along to some degree. But M is very much, here's what you need to do. Like in Thunderball, right? When he's, you think you're mixing your notion of revenge with the task at hand, and he puts him in his place, and Bond backs away and he's like, no, like, you're right, I'll do the job kind of thing. So it's funny that there's a little bit of play there because they don't really have that, and not until like you get to the Roger Moore stuff where it gets some of the conversation to get a little more silly, but not with so much with Connery. This is like one of the few breaks in that relationship. The humorous side of it.
Yeah. There's a. What am I thinking?
Well, they steal the Lecter.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's the consulate explosion. Plus, you get to see the cool underground.
Yeah, that's cool.
And stuff, which. It isn't visually impressive in the sense of it's not going to catch your eye. Going to be like, oh wow, no, it's just it's just a very historic piece, and
that's all real as far as I could tell. None of that's a set,
right?
Yeah, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I believe they did film underneath Istanbul for that.
Right.
So there's waterways and stuff.
We had the little water canal as well, like before that, right when they were on the boat with just Karam and Bond as well. So. Yeah, that's really cool. Like that would that be not aqueduct? What would that be? Underground water tunnels. Yeah, I don't know.
The sewers.
Yeah, I guess so because there was the rats and stuff. Right. So,
right.
Yeah, but yeah, that is pretty cool. But they make haste to the train, to the Orient Express. Which was a pretty long part of the movie, actually. And I forgot how long and how much time was spent on the train. But again, not a moment is really wasted. Like, I don't feel like it's so boring and long and nothing's happening. They do a good job of still having, like, the random guy who walks by their room and, you're suspicious of who could that now be? And so I think keep that heightened suspense.
They're being tailed by that Soviet officer,
right?
And then Grant's on the train as well. And instead of just all of a sudden, oh, hell breaks loose and they're fighting each other kind of thing, no, there's this ratchet up. And then once they quell once Karam kind of is able to like get it's both Karam and Bond. Once they're able to get the Soviet taken care of, that's when the Viper of Grant starts to make his move and stuff, and it's like, oh no, ah,
yeah.
ah.
Is Craig the only other Bond that's really spent time on a train? Because I know you haven't seen Spectre, but there's a scene on the train in Spectre as well. It's not as long as this, obviously, but there is a scene on a train in Spectre, and then you have in Casino Royale as well.
Right.
I don't think the other Bonds really spend a ton of time on trains. We haven't seen all of the Moore ones, but from my recollection,
it was that little bit with Octopussy, but that wasn't.
Yeah, that's
not nearly.
Yeah, it's a train, but I guess it's not.
Right.
Not in the same way this is. It wasn't a transport train, right? Like that wasn't really for passengers necessarily the same way that this was. So.
Right. Yeah. Less passenger one for GoldenEye. That's
even Skyfall, I guess, right? They the whole train sequence at the beginning. So.
Right.
It's too bad. It's too bad that it's great.
Trains
that
are
Craig,
cool.
Yeah, it's like that the Craig movies now that we're talking that out, that there's a lot of stuff on trains. So.
But yeah, and not only that, like there's a couple different stops. So you have the first stop with Karen still alive, and they have the code talk that they have about light cigarettes. I use lighters.
Right.
It's like, oh, you got a match? No, I use a lighter. It's handy. He has that certain phrase. It's like, it's handy until it's not, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That code.
And it's
speak.
Right, and it's cool that they have that. And it's also uncool that Grant and Spectre know of it, so it's like, oh no, kind of thing. So, but I do like that because it gives it, like, it's that little flourish that gives it a lot more of it's that misdirect, that obfuscation that you don't get as much. It's obfuscation a lot of times where it's like you don't know because it's off screen or something, and I don't like that. I'm really not a fan of that way of trying to keep things hidden. It's like, no, put it out in plain sight. Just make it sneaky.
Yeah. No, definitely. The misdirection is really good throughout the film. So. And you're right. The suspense on the train continues to build, and I love what do you call that, where you're filming over top of another piece of filming. So like they have the map, right? But it's almost translucent, like with showing the train as it's driving along the tracks and stuff.
Right.
I really like that style. Like we don't see that a ton in a lot of modern movies anymore. Just because of movie magic and stuff is different nowadays. But Indiana Jones does that as well. When he's on an airplane, they show the map and, it's like dot, yeah, where he's going kind of thing. So
to make a game reference, Lost Odyssey kind of has that sort of, not to the same degree, I don't think. I think it might put it in a window but it shows the map and stuff. So I vaguely remember. Yeah, I thought it was similar,
But I like that here. I think it looks really cool, and it adds a really nice cinematic element to the film.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then, then they get off at, was it Zagreb?
They get off at...
was
Belgrade? Yeah, Belgrade first, then
Belgrade,
Zagreb.
Then Zagreb. Yeah. So they Belgrade, and that's when
at the time the Czechoslovakia, I guess.
Yeah, they tell one of Karam's sons about Bond tells one of Karam's sons about Karam's death.
Yeah.
And then still continues with the plan to be like, okay, get to Zagreb and rendezvous with Nash.
Right.
But yeah.
Things are not going to go to plan.
Grant's a little sneaky, and he knows.
It's funny.
When this,
how is this man who is 6'3", 4", bleached blonde hair? He's like sticks out like a sore thumb, and somehow he just blends in. Like it's done well. Like he shouldn't blend in at all. Like he's not a small man.
Right. I think that's kind of the creepy cool thing about Grant.
Right.
And Spectre is that and this is what's nice. Like I think of Patrice from Skyfall, where he's just kind of you got him, you know him, you see what he looks like, and there's no mystique to it. It's just kind of
the payoff. It's unfortunate, Like they could have done so much.
The payoff is that fight with the neon in the shadow. I get it, but it is a quick snap versus this dread that's building up.
Right.
And it's like, to me, that's much, I like that because that to me is more impressionable.
Well, and we know in this case, Grant is a trained killer, and he is very much targeting Bond because of that opening sequence in the movie. Whereas Patrice, it's more, it's just alluded that he's carrying something important. But in this case, we know Grant is targeting Bond. This isn't just a case of Bond needs to find who he is. Bond has no idea who he is. That's the key point, really, and what makes it work so well is just Grant's constantly biding his time, constantly waiting and waiting and waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
Right. Well, and that's what, when he finally does strike and takes out Nash and takes his place, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Bond, you're in trouble.
It's done really well.
And, and so they meet up, they have these back and forths and stuff, and Bond is not fully trusting, but is trusting.
Yeah.
Like to some degree, right? At least enough to be like, okay, we'll keep you on the line, which is, good on that. Because he makes that remark, it's like, you're in really good shape. Like,
for an office stooge or whatever.
Right.
Something to that effect.
Like, desk work are you lifting the desk? What's going on?
You're much bigger than I was expecting. You're much bigger man.
Right. And, then they go to, he has Grant and Tatiana go to the dinner car.
Right.
And then, this is the point where you would think, oh, okay, he's going to figure it out. He's going to know that something's up with him.
Right.
And, and he's a little late. Grant's like, hey, what's going on? Oh, yeah, okay, cool, great.
Right.
And then he orders, I'm not a wine drinker, so for me, I don't get the red wine, white fish thing so much. But he orders a peculiar drink.
Yeah. They just don't match very well because of the typically the lighter flavor of a fish. You want something that's a little bit more, like a red wine tends to be a little harsher and a little bit more dry. So a white wine it'll usually complement the fish better because it's typically a little bit sweeter and a little bit lighter volume when you drink it. So that's typically why you would have. Okay. And chicken, same thing, right? Like a lighter meat. It tends to go better with a lighter wine.
Okay. I'll forget it in about 2 days. Just because I don't drink wine.
No, I know.
So
and I've stopped drinking wine, so
I think wine is disgusting.
It's quite expensive, so
it's just every time I've tried it, I'm like, this is horrible. Why? Just give me Welch's at this point. I'll drink.
Wow, Taylor, you just spit in the face in a lot of enophiles.
No, drink it all you want. They're your taste buds. If you like it, good for you.
I would love to see you take somebody on a wine tour, though, and put Welch's grape juice. and just to watch them and see if they actually play along and are like, trying to smell it and waft it and try to.
Oh no! They would
try to with a straight face say they don't like the flavor of this wine.
They would probably want to strangle me and be like, "You are insulting."
It's very much.
I would rather just drink grape juice.
Yeah, it's funny. We like to make fun of people who enjoy cigars or enjoy wine or enjoy
right,
but there's just as many, quote unquote fanatical people about Star Wars, Star Trek,
something. Right.
Yeah, you can go off the deep end on anything. So
right,
it's funny. It's just like, oh, you're so snooty. You like wine. It's like if you talk to somebody who really likes, whatever media X. Whatever that may be, and if you don't, heaven forbid, you haven't seen the 6th movie in that franchise, you're not a real fan. It's just it's the same attitude, right? It's totally the same thing. So anyway,
it's just
So anyway, you're right though. Yeah. He does, in Bond's estimation, he's confused by And I wonder why Grant would order that, like, and why Bond would be that suspicious of it. Like, on one hand, maybe at the time it did look weird, but it's also, I think now we're more, if you like something, go ahead and eat it. Like, it's not you're a freak for not comparing, this with that. Well,
this kind of goes back to just the character who's like really on top of that sort of culinary aspect.
Yeah.
And then that when you have somebody who's supposed to be kind of like in desk work and stuff, something it's
you wouldn't think he's as cultured or whatever.
Right, there's pinging things that's just kind of like something's off.
Right.
What's off? Because like he doesn't see the slip of the drug that incapacitates.
Calls him out pretty quick on it though.
Well, yeah, like it doesn't call him out at the table. He just kind of lets it slide.
Right.
But yeah, and he pulls the gun on her, and that's when he's like, "Hey, this is only a one-man escape thing," and then has a good enough lie to be like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Well, oh, okay." The end.
But it's a really good back and forth, and it's fun to watch Robert Shaw with his British accent and really play up this other side of his character and the deception that he's playing. And you're right, Bond's not fully committed to trusting him, but he's also not, his guard is down to some degree.
Down enough to.
Yeah, because we've seen him just cold-blooded take somebody out if he suspects anything, right? Like he just steps in right away. Like Thunderball, the beginning of the movie, right? The guy who's dressed as a woman, like he knew right away. Right? He didn't question it, and he just immediately got into a fight with him. But in this case, he's not so sure that he's potentially correct or incorrect about the identity of this person.
Right.
So, which leads to perhaps, in some people's minds, one of the better fight sequences of the franchise.
It's pretty brutal. And there's only like one little snip where you have, you can see it's like stunt doubles, but I think all the others were actually those two.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's both. And Robert Shaw was, at the time, as far as I know, he was in pretty good condition and stuff. So,
right.
Because
there's that.
Oh, go ahead.
You do a little bit of injustice there. Like there's that little bit of a buildup before there's the fight where Grant's got him, and he's like but once he's got the gun on him, he has him go get on his knees and put his hands in his pockets,
right.
And then there's this back and forth, and this is when Bond finally figures out that it's Spectre, and that he keeps on digging at him, calling him old man. Yeah. Grant does.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, I'll humor you and let you know what's on it, what's going on, and because he's got him. So he's like, oh yeah, this is just, it's his like personal little treat to see the gears work as he's like, yeah, we got this film, we got this love letter, we got all this sort of stuff on you. You're gonna be dead, and it was because you were trying to abscond with the stuff. And
not only have we killed you, but we've marked you as a traitor. We've tarnished, what's left of, I know it's internal, but your legacy within MI6, and
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, the humiliation. And it's like, oof. Yeah. He's got him. And he has that line. He's like, I'll shoot you, but I won't kill you. And I'll shoot you until you come over here and like kiss my boot or something.
Something like that.
Good Lord. Like, oh my goodness. Like, that was really good. That was a tough line.
Yeah. And Grant's he's really intimidating, and it's really good that they got an actor that's also, like, 1, capable as an actor, 2, can look intimidating, and then 3, just has gravitas to them, right? Like he's the only thing I think about Grant that and it doesn't bother me or anything, but when I always hear about best Bond villain lists or he never seems to come up, and he probably really should.
Well, I think it's because he is like a henchman /
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's like, that's kind of all Bond is. He's a henchman of MI6.
Yes, he is.
like, why is it then that one of the henchmen that's like doing, that's probably why he doesn't.
Perhaps.
Because it's all.
I guess I don't see him come up in the henchman lists, I feel like, though, either. But anyways.
He doesn't have a cool claw.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have a claw, he doesn't have a scar, he doesn't have, well, he can, but he can take a, what was it, brass knuckles punch to the stomach and not flinch.
Right.
So he's got an iron stomach. Like, how many hot wings can you eat, Grant? and take a punch with brass knuckles after. But yeah, you're right. I kind of skipped some of that play back and forth between the two of them, which leads to we've already talked about the briefcase though, and it
right
in Grant's face, which gives Bond just enough time to get out of the way of getting shot, which leads to that fight. And within the fight, there's only one kind of silly action. So after Bond hangs on I think it's the coat rack that's above the door, and he gives him the double boot kick, and he falls into the sectional seating.
Yeah.
Grant kind of rolls off immediately, but Connery jumps at him like he's trying to choke him, and it's just a little bit silly. Like why wouldn't Bond just like try to kick him, or just stand and try to swing a fist to punch him in the face or something? But he does like a dive, like he's diving to jump at his throat. That's the only thing I was like, that's a little bit hokey. Like, I don't know why you would do that necessarily. Like, I think he would be better off just standing there going to punch him in the face or what have you. But other than that, like the fights, it's coordinated pretty well in a tight space. And for the 60s as well, where like we've seen other, I've seen Jet Li and Jackie Chan do stuff in really tiny spaces, and you're like, that's just unbelievable. But this is coming from a very different style of action
different
sequence.
Style, and it comes across as just more grounded than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the whole train bit is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, it is incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Just from the word go.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think they were able to pull that all off in such a marvelous fashion. And the funny thing is, I remember you talking about the budget for this movie, which I'm always wondering, where did they really splash a bunch of this cash? And I assume it's this back end of the movie.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And so I've also heard people say this is the perfect Bond movie until they get off the train.
I could
like
agree with
all
that.
The way through, it's so well crafted, and then these last, not because the last sequences are bad, but they just don't fit some of the vibe of everything that's gone on. It's almost like, oh, we have to get a couple of action beats in here because we haven't really, except for the gypsy camp is kind of the biggest at that point. Yeah, we've had a few explosions and so forth with Karam's, assassination attempt and within the I was just going to say the Kremlin, in the Soviet consulate. Thank you. Other than that, not really. So
yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. It's a little bit rushed. I don't know if they were inspired by North by Northwest with the helicopter bits, which
I think they were.
Connery did do, which
is
props
crazy.
to him for doing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They had an accident when they were filming with the helicopter where they took off to do some, I think it was for the boat sequences.
Okay.
It was over water and stuff. And Terrence Young is in this and a few other people. And right after it takes off, it doesn't get any more lift. And then the pilot had the sense of mind to bank it 90 degrees so that the blades broke off when they hit the water.
Ooh.
And then they crashed. They get out of the thing, and 5 minutes later, and for the rest of the day, Terrence Young's just like, he's kind of the MVP you've got for this whole movie. Because with Pedro's passing, and just how dour that all is, he kept things going. He was he really rallied the troops to get this to go. Peter Hunt as well, with all of the cuts and the decisions to switch some of the film bits around and everything from the end, as well as the audio, like the sound engineering and stuff. Like they were on top of it, and Terrence Young just pushing and keeping things light and not like he was strict but fair and jovial, like kind of thing. It was his balance. Except for this last little bit. Like this is one of those this is a movie where it's an hour and 55 minutes or so, and it's like 15 minutes more might have helped. Maybe chop the helicopter bit off and elongate the plane or the boat bit.
Yeah. Or even if they somehow manage to squeeze these sequences elsewhere in the film somehow. I don't know where, because like it's so well crafted up to that point. Like if almost
the helicopter one might be an easy one to shoehorn somewhere else for something else.
Probably. But they basically try to put 3 really like big sequences back to back to back.
Right.
Because you get that helicopter that's chasing them when they get in the truck, and boy, that guy was not happy about giving up his truck.
No.
But anyways, no. So we get the sequence there with the helicopter flying at Connery, and then he shoots down. Well, he doesn't even shoot it down necessarily, right? He shoots the co-pilot,
who drops the grenades that they're throwing down. Yeah.
And then we get your first really spectacular explosion, which now leads to, get in the boat. Like suddenly got to get in the boat. Like, okay.
It is the least comical proto planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah. Without the uncomfortable scene of Steve Martin and John Candy in the tiny bed.
I always think of where they're driving, they like end up driving between the 2 semis, and John Candy's laughing and turns into the devil.
That's actually really underrated comedy too. But when they get out of the bed, they're like, oh, and they're like doing like that's it's almost like a dance, but they're like trying to like get the cooties off, if you will.
That's was a funny thing. Side tangent on that. My best friend from high school, that kind of happened to him and I. I stayed over at his place and I slept in his bed because he had like a stupid like king size bed.
Yep.
And we both woke up at like the same time, like 2 inches from each other, nose to nose, and we're like, ah! What was that? What are you doing? I'm like, it's your bed. You're the one. I'm just trying. I don't know what's going on.
It's funny how like I've got female friends, no problem, right? Like they don't think, but as men, as we get, especially as we get older, because I remember being pre-teen and staying over at friend's house, and there's a larger bed, but it's like, okay, you don't really want to sleep on the floor or whatever,
right? And
it not really being a thing, you never thought about it. But then as you get a bit older, but more self-conscious about it, and if you're, whatever your gender preference is, you might be more or less comfortable with it. So, but it's just kind of funny how, I know lots of women where they're like, so what? Like, just because we're both women, we're friends, and we're not in that kind of relationship, right? We're just really close. Right. But for even 2 really close men, you still might be like, that scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is very much the reality.
Yeah.
That and the car rental scene is pretty amazing too. I will not be quoting any of it, but that's pretty well written and performed. And even the lady at the desk just being like, "Sir." But anyways,
so
get on the boat. Really cool sequence though on the boat, right? Like it's shot really well, and I love how like they converge together. We need extra backup, and then they all like come together. It's just like an 80s,
like synchronized.
Oh, it's like an swimming 80s Knight Rider scene or something. Like it's done well. It's really done well, and then so you get the really cool lavish scene, and then the big explosion, and
right.
It seems like every Bond, anytime there's, there's a Bond marathon on, that shot seems to always be in there with the flare gun.
Yeah.
It's, for whatever reason, it's really iconic as an action scene. And Connery looks really cool with his little sailor's anchor hat on.
Right.
But anyways, and then shoots the gasoline on there, and they escape. I'm just going faster this because honestly, it feels like it's that fast. Like it
is. It feels like
it's just go. Like here's next piece. And this is that whole scene, like being scrunched together, really is where that North by Northwest. It's not only like the crop duster plane. I think it's just the fact that movie is quite breakneck as well. Like it's Cary Grant's here, then he's here, then he's here, then he's here. Oh, there's a little bit of a reprieve. It slows down. He's in the train station. Oh, somebody just got shot. And he's here. Right. It's very breakneck. And the only thing I heard about North by Northwest is I don't think they ended up filming a lot of the stuff on location. A lot of it ended up being on sets or sound stages, unfortunately. But it's hard to tell. I guess Hitchcock really didn't like to travel. So, anyways, and then we get to the Rosa Klebb final scene where she's just at the door and
he tries to
angry grimace on her face, and
right, like trying to sneak a hand in the cookie jar kind of thing.
Yeah, like the last minute, I gotta make up for. Because I think she knows, even though she escaped the head of Spectre's wrath the first time, she's not going to be able to get away this time.
Not now, right?
Getting away from the helicopter, getting away from the boats. If he doesn't get killed, then she's more than likely going to get killed herself.
Right.
So she's, like you said, she's kind of got to take matters in her own hands, and she's struck by a chair. I don't know how else to. She's pinned by a very elaborate, I don't know, elaborate the Palace of Versailles chair. Like it's this beautiful chair.
Right? She's got the shoe knife going of the poison and everything, and it's like, okay, smart.
Yep.
But it's like somebody who's trying to like corral something.
Yeah. It reminds me of when like a child is like trying to hit an adult and they just have their hand on their forehead and they're swinging wildly and it's going nowhere. It's a little bit like that.
A little bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad she meets such a demise, because Rosa Klebb is a pretty solid villain. Like she doesn't get a lot of screen time, but her presence is good when she is on screen, and she's believable. She's really, really craggy, right? Like she's just grumpy, like she just
crusty character.
Yeah, she's kind of crusty, like in all the right ways. Like she's perfect for her role, and so it's too bad that she doesn't really get more to do in some regard. And then her death is quite abrupt, right? Like there's Rosa Klebb, and little fight scene, like very limited fight scene, and then next thing you know, she's dead, right? She's shot dead. So,
and then Bond and Tatiana go on a boat ride.
Yep.
Where then Bond pulls out the film that is not ever shown him picking up, which that is something that aggravates the hell out of me.
I mean, I assume when he kills Grant, right?
Well, it's assumed, yeah, but it doesn't ever show it.
No.
Which is kind of annoying.
It doesn't bother me too much because it's like
you would assume
at least it wasn't just like it got thrown out of the train window and somehow it ended in his pocket or something obnoxious.
Some farmer picks it up, doesn't know what to do with it, and throws it away or something.
Would you have preferred if Ian Fleming was on another boat?
Yes.
He was the man off the side of the train and he picked it up and brought it to him?
No, I just...
And lit a cigarette at the same time?
If he would have just picked it up. If you just seen him pick it up. Which, I get it. Super minor. It still annoys me.
Okay. But yeah, so we get a really quick, like 20 minutes of action, and then kind of an abrupt ending as well. Like
you feel like they were over budget. Like,
yeah,
okay.
Like it's
let's wrap it up.
But it does feel like they filmed a lot of that stuff early in the movie, to me, and then they were thinking, where do we fit this? We have these great sequences. We know we want to put them in. Well, we'll just tack them on at the end. We'll just make it like a last minute chase type.
I don't know about that. I don't think it's quite that. I think like part of it was that they went over budget because they had to refilm that explosion.
Which one?
the boat.
Oh, okay.
Because it prematurely exploded, and I don't think they got it on camera.
Oh, okay.
So they had to ship in more stuff. I was like,
well, they did a great job of getting it the second time because it's a perfect explosion. Like it looks really cool, and there's even guys on fire jumping in the water and stuff. And
yeah, it gets a bit graphic.
Yeah, like when you see that in a movie now, and like if it's like a horror movie, Freddy is on fire, like you can tell like there's some prosthetics that are on top of like a heated suit that should protect the actor to some degree. These guys don't look like they're protected at all. Like they
probably weren't. We'll give you $50.
Reminds me of some of the action movies that come out of like Thailand and Indonesia now, where the guys are paid to take like full on kicks and stuff.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, dude, there's some pretty amazing action movies, like martial arts movies, but those actors are probably paid, $10 to take like a full on roundhouse kick off of a train and stuff, and you're like, whew, like,
oh boy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, but look, it ends up looking great on film, but at what cost? Was it really worth the the minor amount of money? They probably got paid additionally to do that. Actually, Michael J. White's an interesting character. He talks about that, hitting stuntmen and stuff, and having that relationship with them, and them being willing to take, not like, well, like truthfully, like take a kick to the face. It's not going to be a full blast kick, but it's going to be a pretty stiff kick. Like it's going to be about a 50 to 60% volume of a kick. So, and them being willing to do it because they're like, oh yeah, it'll look great on film. Like the guys are willing to do it and stuff.
Consummate pro.
But then after they do it, the actor, the main actor might feel really bad. It's like, I got to at least take this guy out for, a $200 lunch or something. Cause like that's pretty tough to take a kick to the face. But these guys, yeah, they're like on fire jumping into the water, and they can't get in that water fast enough. So plus doesn't help that the water's on fire.
It's on fire, right? Yeah.
So
not great.
You don't really have too many options.
Right.
But yeah, like I personally, I have no other additional bits I want to add. Like the soundtrack is really good for this. We talked about the use of the main theme at the end of the movie. I think it's actually really good for closure for the end of the movie. We get a nice shot of them leaving Istanbul, like as the boat's going away. Yeah, like I'm almost ready to get into scores unless you've got something you want to touch upon.
Let's roll into the scores. Since I picked it, I score it.
If I recall, I believe so, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to be just put cards on the table. 6.5.
Oh, that was my score.
I know. I figured as much.
I was debating a 6. I mean, truthfully, yes, if the movie ended with Grant and the train kind of just, maybe Bond and Tatiana doing something, it would probably be a 7, yeah. Yeah. And I do like the last scenes a lot. Like, they're fun, but they just don't quite fit the rest of the flow of the movie because it's so tightly made. Like, it's such a great espionage spy movie.
Right.
And this movie is also so different than pretty much every other Bond movie. It lays so much foundation for what the spy game looked like in the Cold War. It's really too bad that no Bond movie has really dipped back into that. The closest would be maybe Casino Royale, but Casino Royale has a lot of action in between. Yeah, I can't really find a comparison that actually, because this movie doesn't have a ton of action until that last bit.
Right.
Not in the sense of what, a Bond movie for action sequences typically are. It's a pretty bold choice to go with that on the second movie.
It worked.
Yeah. Yeah, it really did.
Yeah. 6.5.
Well, that was my score as well. So yeah, I wanted to go to 6.5 as well. Yeah, it's a really, really strong Bond movie, and
just a strong movie in general.
Yeah,
you could
just
literally just watch this and be like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I'd be curious to see if somebody watched this movie and then watched North by Northwest, and obviously there's about a 3-year gap, I think, between the films.
Yeah, I'm not certain.
Something like that. North by Northwest did come out first.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm
by
just
a couple
not
of
saying
years.
what year, when that came out.
59 maybe, or 60, something like that. But they're both great films, and there's a lot of similarities. Obviously, probably Bond might have taken some of them, but I do believe that this movie followed the novel quite closely, from what I understand.
Mm.
So, no dreaded octopus fight or whatever from Dr. No.
Oh, no.
They should have had a sky octopus instead of a helicopter chase Bond.
A sky octopus. That's exactly what, yeah.
The windfish from Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening. Just a giant technical.
Yeah, they could have. But yeah, 6.5 is I totally concur with you on that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, well, it is time for you to choose. Which route do you go?
It is, and I'll be honest. I had 3 different movies in mind, actually.
Oh boy.
I think this happened last time too. I really got stuck trying to decide between 3 different movies. And one, now I'm for sure I don't want one of those 3. And I'm stuck between 2 different ones that are very far apart in era.
Yeah, well, I mean, I told you what I was thinking for this one. I was like, either it's From Russia with Love or Spectre.
Yeah, and so I started leaning into that a little bit too.
Uh-oh.
But I am going to make us watch Diamonds Are Forever.
Oh. Okay.
And I have no logic or reason as to why. I just think we saw a really good Connery, and I don't have particularly great memories of Diamonds Are Forever.
Diamonds Are Forever.
So I think I want to jump into that. And if I recall, we have lost some episodes, and we did watch Diamonds Are Forever. So I want to give it another chance.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Was it Mr. Winks, and what are those 2 guys' names?
Oh,
Mr. Kid and Mr. Wink or something like that? Something like that. I don't know.
Is it Winks or Wicks?
Wicks something. We'll find out, I guess. So, rev up your moon buggy.
Yes. I cannot wait to...
And drive out to your offshore rig for no reason.
Well, that one's what, the second Guy Hamilton directed?
I don't remember who the director of that one is.
It's Guy Hamilton. I think it's the second one of his.
Okay.
So great.
Well, I also didn't want to be remiss and not pick any Connery, because I think you picked this and Thunderball, so.
Well, it wasn't like I was being mean and trying to take all the good ones.
No. Just like I think at this point I have not picked Connery, and then I think I've picked the other actors. I won't count Lazenby just because there's only one. So.
Well, yeah, that's kind of unfair.
Yeah, but I think I've picked all the other actors except Connery at this point. So. Thought I'd pick at least this one.
Okay, all right. Great. So yeah, if you have any sort of comments, concerns, or anything you want to tell us that we're right or wrong about, because there's certainly plenty of it, put them down below. What are your favorite parts of the movie if you've seen, From Russia with Love? Have you even seen it? Will you see it? All that and more. Let us know. So, that's it. Thank you. And we will return.